Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the Dark Phoenix of Konoha. Naruto has a big secret, he isn't the dead last he appears to be. But why would he show that before he is ready to deal with the stones the council loves placing in his way? The Sandaime, having opened his eyes, will do his best to make sure that Konoha will retain the will of fire. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 36, Information Gathering. Naruto looked at Sandaime with disdain. This plan he had worked out was not thought through. Who thought that dragging a princess back to her home country, when she clearly suffered a trauma, would be enough to make her take over the leadership over some weak rebellion? Even Wave Country had better starting conditions. Tazuna had been a leader. A drunk and insulting leader, but he had stood up for his people and had done something. He had found a way to achieve the goal of giving his people a future. The main problem had been that the opponent was too powerful for him alone, even if the people of Wave Country would have all stood up against Gato. The numbers of thugs that Gato employed required ninja intervention. It required the silent assassination that he and Kakashi-sensei had performed, no matter how hard that had been. But in the end Tazuna had managed to motivate his people to work for their freedom after the danger was gone. The people were just too scared to do anything that could get them killed. Here in Snow Country, there was no leader that was taking the lead over those that were perhaps willing to fight. They all expected their princess to lead them, when it was clear that she wanted to be anywhere but here. It was a strategy that was doomed to fail from the beginning. He and Haku had interrogated their captives and had found out that Doto had been aware of the identity of Yuki for a while and had let Sandaime play into his hands by bringing her back to Snow Country. It meant it would be much harder from here on, as Doto wanted the hexagonal crystal that Koyuki wore around her neck. It was supposedly the key to the treasure of the Kazuhana family. And he wanted that treasure. The interrogation also gave them a lot of information about the technology of the Snow Country, technology that was far advanced compared to anything that Konoha had. It was clear that they would have to take the chance to take some of it for Konoha and if possible, steal some blueprints to recreate the armor. It would increase the power of their village a lot. The main problem was that they would have to get into Doto's fortress and that was damn difficult. The man was a security nut and it would take time to sneak inside. Especially as there were few animals that Naruto could imitate to get in like he had done with Gato's hideout. Well, perhaps this could be a proper test for his Mirage Jutsu. Having enough of listening to Sandaime, Naruto spoke up. That plan is doomed to fail, as Princess Koyuki isn't very cooperative right now. While she might be willing to take over the place of daimyo once this conflict is solved, she is no soldier and would be a liability in a fight, Naruto told them seriously. Finally, somebody with a brain, they heard Koyuki's voice from the door. I have no intention to risk my life in a fight I don't think has any chance of success. My father's soldiers were well trained, but my uncle still managed to kill him and take over the country. What kind of chance would a ragtag group of rebels have? None right now, I'll agree with you there. We don't have enough information right now and should gather that before we plan any kind of attack, Naruto stated. I suggest you go to a safe hiding place once we land and Haku and I go in to gather the information we need. We're the ones best suited to deal with an information gathering mission. Haku is in his element here and I'm a specialist in stealth. Team Guy will make sure that you're completely safe. Once we know what we're dealing with, and if possible, we'll also perform some sabotage unnoticed, we'll come back and put a proper plan together. Yes, that makes sense. I agree with that, Naruto. How long do you think you would need? Guy asked, being serious for once. Give us 4 days and we'll have everything we need. I'll leave one of my kunaus with you to be able to get us out quickly in case they find us, Naruto told him. How do you plan to get inside that fortress? Koyuki asked disbelievingly. Oh, That's fairly easy as long as we get close to it, Haku informed them. I have a jutsu that allows me to travel through ice mirrors. I can create these mirrors anywhere within my field of sight. If I get one mirror into a window of the fortress, I can travel there, and with one of Naruto's Konoha he can follow me once I'm inside. So your reach has drastically improved on that jutsu, Haku. That's really useful. I was going to have to see what entrances the fortress had to sneak inside. But this plan is much better. Especially as your mirrors can hover in the air, Naruto complimented the ice user. Thank you, Naruto. Let's check our equipment and then get going. They won't expect us to get in on foot, Haku said. Naruto nodded and the two boys left. They only heard Guy set up some guard schedules for his genin and tell the captain to have the speed to deceive the snow ninjas when they would arrive. Right now they were safer on the ship than on land, where the snow ninjas would be able to use their jutsus more freely. After all, their two ninjutsu specialists were just going to get the information gathering mission done. Haku and Naruto easily reached the shore and thanks to Haku's abilities managed to get past the guards at the coast without being detected. Haku had simply called a snowstorm to hinder their visibility. Once they didn't sense any ninjas close by, they increased their speed. Both of them were naturally fast, so they made good time getting to the castle. Sandayu had told them where it was located when he described his plans to free Snow Country after all. They still needed a full day to get there. They set up camp to rest for 4 hours before they would continue. Haku created an igloo for them to use and made it look like part of the landscape to not arouse suspicion from guards at the fortress. Naruto meanwhile, after seeing that there were some crows around here, made 2 shadow clones and sent them to gather some information on where it would be easiest to let Haku enter the fortress with his mirror. It wouldn't be good if he accidentally broke into Doto's throne room. The crow clones flew all over the fortress and got a good idea where the entry points were. They looked through all the windows and finally decided that a window on the 2nd floor that belonged to a bathroom would be a good place. Nobody would after all think twice about a person coming out of a bathroom. They would only have to capture 2 people that went to the bathroom and take their positions for a while. Not that difficult. After having got 5 hours of sleep, thanks to having clones doing the watch, Haku and Naruto discussed the plan of what kind of information they wanted to get and how to proceed after they had entered the fortress. Both boys were used to infiltrating bases and decided that each would go for another area. Haku would look for the sleeping areas of the ninjas and normal guards of the fortress to be able to take them out of the equation early on. Naruto would look for the data on the special armor that the snow ninjas used and find out what Doto planned exactly. He had to have plans for Princess Koyuki, or he wouldn't have bothered trying to capture her. They needed to know what those plans were and what could be done to thwart them. While Konoha normally didn't interfere in internal affairs of other countries, brutal dictators that killed rightful rulers of a country were a problem for everybody, as they tended to be power-hungry and didn't stop at taking over one country. They normally wanted to rule over everything. And that was something Konoha interfered with. When the clones gave the signal that there weren't any guards around to see them, Haku started to create one of his mirrors in the bathroom window. He precisely made the mirror the same size as the window, positioning it a few centimeters away from the window itself, and soon had a second mirror in front of him. He stepped into the first mirror and pushed his hands out of the second one. Then he created a third mirror inside the bathroom. He switched from the second mirror to the third one and undid the mirrors with a wave of his hand. He was incredibly glad that he had finally mastered this jutsu well enough to not have to jump from mirror to mirror. That had been the first stage of this jutsu. But having the chance to properly work on his bloodline limit, allowed him to evolve the jutsu. Now he could travel to any mirror that held his chakra without having to leave the first mirror bodily. It was like teleportation, just that he had to have a mirror as a destination point. He took out the kunai Naruto had given him and pushed some chakra into it, only for Naruto to appear a second later. They nodded at each other. The first part of the infiltration had worked out perfectly. They jumped to the ceiling and disguised themselves with cloth that had the same color as the ceiling. Now they needed to wait for a while until they had 2 persons that they could take over for. Naruto and Haku only had to wait for half an hour before 2 persons entered the room. They quickly took them out and sealed them into a prisoner scroll each. Interrogating them would have to wait for a while, as they worked on a tight schedule. Thankfully both had an identity card pinned to their uniforms. Probably to determine easily who was permitted to enter certain areas. Each of them took the appearance of one of their captives, put the cards onto their chests in the same position where the ones they were now impersonating had worn them, and then they flushed 2 toilets and washed their hands to keep the appearance of simply having used the bathroom before leaving again. Each of them went into a different direction. Naruto found the laboratory easily, thanks to having seen the position through a window, while his clones had been spying in crow form. He had left 2 of them outside to give him a warning if something major happened. Thanks to his Mirage Jutsu, none of the scientists noticed him while he stood in a corner of the laboratory, keeping silent. He watched the scientists working and listened to their conversations, memorizing anything he thought could be of use later on. For example, he easily saw the code that one scientist tipped on the number panel on the safe, which opened the safe. The blueprints for the chakra armor were put inside before the scientists left for the day. Naruto had watched the room for 3 hours now and he waited for 20 minutes after the last scientist had gone before he went to the safe. He was honestly surprised that there weren't more security precautions to make sure that only identified and cleared personnel had access to the safe. There were no traps, you only had to give the correct combination. Admittedly, the combination had 8 digits, meaning that guessing the right combination would be next to impossible for burglars, but there was nothing like a proximity alarm for example. Thanks to knowing the code, he easily got the blueprints out. After a brief check, he used some new papers that were stored in a cupboard in the room to create a halfway convincing fake. After all, he didn't want to alert Doto to the fact that his headquarters had been infiltrated too early on. He intentionally changed a few things around, especially the power sources set up. That would make any chakra armor that was created in the future based on these plans, should that happen before they could deal with Doto, fail in action. He repeated the procedure for other technology that looked interesting. It would be up to Konoha's research department and Kakashi-sensei to decide which ones they wanted to use. The original plans went into a storage scroll. Naruto left the rest of the laboratory untouched, as he didn't want to tip anybody off too early on. Right now his mission was information gathering and subtle sabotage. Nothing obvious. He made sure that nobody was outside of the laboratory before opening the door and leaving the area. The next destination he had was trying to find out if Doto had any direct plans for how to capture the princess. Haku needed an hour to find the quarters of Doto's guards. To his delight, a guard schedule was pinned to a notice board, so he copied it down when nobody was around. He also created mirrors in the 3 windows around the quarters and put a genjutsu over them to make it appear as if nothing had changed. They looked like the windows before, but they would enable him to get into the room at any time. It was another improvement to his jutsu. While he needed to see the place where he put the mirror, he could go into any existing mirror from any other mirror. So if he had the chance to prepare mirrors in a place, he could return there at any time, for as long as the mirrors still had chakra and didn't melt down. So far his best result was keeping up to 6 mirrors for 4 hours on end. After that he lost control over the jutsu thanks to chakra exhaustion. He was still working on the number and the time, but it was already a really useful skill. His plan was to simply put all the guards into a false death state. He still wasn't comfortable with killing people if he had any other choice. And his skills with Senbon rarely made it necessary to kill. Instead, he delivered his captives to the T&I division to let them be interrogated for useful information. A look at his wristwatch told him that the main number of guards would return to the quarters in 2 hours. They would get dinner there, which he had found out on the schedule, and he expected them to go to bed about 2 to 3 hours after that. Of course some had guard duty during the night, but the number was far smaller than during the day. He left the room to follow the schedule of the man he was impersonating. Right now, he was expected to guard the north entrance for the next 2 hours. After that he would have a break. The guards rotated every 2 hours, which made security tighter than with rotation schemes that had longer periods. You had to exchange more people after all if you were after a specific area. Naruto had sent 5 clones under the Mirage Jutsu out to map out the fortress. It would come in useful once they led a direct attack against Doto. Well, as direct as a ninja would act. Sneaking in and hitting core locations was more likely the course of action. He got a note with the guard schedule from Haku when they crossed paths again, and he made sure to not blow his cover. The more time they had to gather information, the better for them. The real attack would happen soon. Haku would strike against all guards in the dorms and take them out for at least a week. By Haku's estimation, according to the note, that would mean that they had 3/4 of all guards presently at the fortress taken out. That would change the odds a lot in their favor. With all the existing machines that Doto could use, it would be needed. And the rebellion of the people of Snow Country couldn't really be called a danger to Doto. They seemingly only had the hope that their princess would take over the lead and defeat the murderer of her father. As if that would be easy. Koyuki wasn't a trained fighter. She was an actress and traumatized by the incident when she was a child. She might be able to take over ruling the country, if they freed it before that, but she wasn't qualified to lead a fight. Naruto and Haku watched the chaos unfold in the morning when the condition of the guards that Haku had hit was found out. And there was a number of leading personnel missing. Thanks to knowing who led which unit of guards, they had decided to capture them for interrogation. Naruto had had to create 24 new prisoner scrolls for it, but he had easily done that. Though he would have to stock up on new sealing supplies when they returned to Konoha. His would last for this mission. He had made sure to have triple the supplies you normally calculated for, but with the pace they were using them up, he would need to restock. They had given up on their disguises and now hid under Naruto's Mirage Jutsu to not be found before they could sneak out. It was too bad that during the night there had been some kind of barrier that prevented that anybody could leave or enter the fortress without being detected. And even Haku's mirrors hadn't been able to get them through. It was an advanced sealing array, one which Naruto knew, as it was an Uzumaki creation originally. He suspected that it had been stolen when Uzushio had been destroyed and somehow Doto got hold of it. You could only deactivate the barrier if you had a special key, and none of them knew where that key was kept. Not to mention that the key could be anything that was decided on while the sealing array was created. Therefore they decided to wait until the barrier was deactivated in the morning. Naruto had unsealed 2 of his specialized flying devices, which he had created for the invasion of Konoha, but which hadn't been used then, as it wasn't needed, and now the 2 were waiting for some guards to search the roof. They would follow them and keep hidden until they could take off unnoticed. It didn't matter that Doto was aware of the attack on most of his guard force, he wouldn't notice what else they had done until it was too late. And Naruto had left a nice little surprise in the storage of the chakra armor. A few explosive notes, try about 5 for each armor, and the large storage room was filled up to the roof, would go off once his chakra signature left the fortress. Which was why he wanted to use the devices and didn't use his transformation abilities. The explosion would probably destabilize his transformation and he didn't want to risk that. The seals, which operated the devices, were tested to withstand any kind of foreign chakra. Once activated, they would only react to another chakra after being deactivated and newly activated. Haku had been really impressed with this, when Naruto had explained his emergency escape plan. They had discussed how to get away in case something went wrong with their first plan. It was simply common ninja sense to always have a few alternative plans up your sleeve. After all, if they could do it without giving up the possibility of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu being in their arsenal to their enemies, all the better. Finally, a group of 4 guards went up to the roof, unsealed the door, with one of them giving his fingerprint as identification, and checked if the attackers had hidden on the roof. The inspection came up negative, but none of them were ninjas and none noticed that Naruto and Haku had sneaked out with the group and stayed on the roof after the group left and sealed the door again. Naruto and Haku activated their flying devices and sped off towards the ocean where the ship would now be close to the shore. About half a minute after their takeoff, the explosive notes activated and blew up the storage room with any chakra armor that was kept in the fortress and which wasn't worn by a person at that time. Haku just finished his part of the report to Guy while Guy's team listened in. Naruto had done his part first and now they finished the rest of the report. Well, that was a very youthful information gathering, Haku and Naruto, Guy declared. What are we going to do now, Guy-sensei? Lee wanted to know. If we want to act, we should first find out what the captives that Haku and Naruto brought with them know, but I'm not that good at interrogation, Guy frowned. I can take care of that with Niji's help, Naruto spoke up. I'm no specialist in that area, but I know all the techniques one can use for it. And with his Byakugan he would be perfectly suited to spot if a prisoner lies to me, not to mention that his abilities with the gentle fist can be used to disable certain nerve clusters to make the prisoner talk more easily. That's true, and I was taught how to do exactly that by Hayashi-sama after the finals of the Chunin exams, Niji spoke up. He called it something that any Hyuga that goes on missions of C rank and above regularly needs to be capable of to ensure mission success. Naruto nodded. I'll also have 2 clones draw maps of the fortress so that you can work with Haku on plans to enter it for a direct attack against Doto, Naruto told Guy. Very good, Naruto. Your flames of youth burn brightly, Guy declared. Naruto didn't comment, but took Niji to a distant room where they could start interrogating their captives. It wouldn't do to have Haku or Lee watch what exactly they would do. Both didn't like violence, even if Haku was less naive that ninjas often had to use it. Naruto hoped that the drugs he had available would be enough to get the answers that he needed. Otherwise this would become nasty. It took 8 hours for Niji and Naruto to finish questioning their prisoners. The rest of the team had worked on the plans for attacking Doto. But it wouldn't be easy. While Haku and Naruto had managed to infiltrate the fortress, it would be much harder to do so with a whole team, in which most of them weren't specialized in infiltration. Not to mention that the security around Doto himself was much harder to crack than the overall one of the fortresses. Otherwise Naruto and Haku would have acted while they were there. But Doto's personal guards were specially selected men that used codes and other methods of identification to assure that no assassin could get close to Doto. They were also a good bit above the level of the normal guards there. Especially Nadare would pose a problem. He was a high-level jonin and had shown that he shouldn't be underestimated in his fight against Guy. When Naruto and Niji returned to the group, the prisoners were sealed in the prisoner scrolls again, in worse state than before. Guy asked them what they had found out. Most of the ones that were caught didn't know a lot about the security around Doto. They are the ones that keep the low and middle areas of security watched. The group leaders mostly supplied us with the normal procedures of the guards, which are basic ones that we learned of in the academy, and some specifics about 1 or 2 areas they knew about. There is a secret passage from the basement to the laboratory that is only known to the guard force leaders, which is mostly used to get secret supplies to the scientists without the majority of the workers there having a clue. It is secured with a number code, but I suspect that the one we got will be changed soon. After all, the break-in was noticed, Niji stated, and Haku and Naruto nodded, agreeing with that assessment. More interesting was one man that was degraded after messing up. He had once been part of the outer guard around Doto, and he told us that the guards change passwords every 2 days and that the inner guards have a tattoo on them that identifies them as such. The tattoo is a white circle with a red, 4-pointed star on the inner side of the left underarm. To enter the throne room, you have to give the password and have the tattoo inspected by an expert. Any fake is detected. Even transformation jutsu doesn't work for a reason. I guess they use a special kind of ink for the tattoos, Niji continued. The outer guards are the first line of defense if an attacker gets past the normal guards of the fortress. Most of them are ninjas of Chunin rank from Snow Country's ninja village. They rotate every week. The inner guard are mostly Jonin with Nadare as their leader, Naruto now said. Getting into the building isn't the problem. I left some of my flying thunder god seals in there in about 10 places. I can take one of you with a clone each to get us in, but from there the problems start. While we don't have to worry about too many opponents with the chakra armor for now, the ones that we didn't hit with the explosive tags are still a concern. And I bet that they had a good number of other storage facilities that they are now contacting for replacements. Why did you blow the stock up then? Tenten asked. Distraction. My intention wasn't simply taking the armor out of the equation, I wanted to make them split up their already decreased forces. Doto knows that Princess Koyuki is back and he wants her for some reason. We didn't find out what reason that was exactly, but rumors went around about some royal treasure. No idea if that information is reliable. If Doto had all of his forces available with chakra armor directly at the base, he would have much more options to act against us and kidnap the princess. Now he has to work around the false death state that Haku put his guards into, and, without a medic, you need 2 weeks to fully recover from that. With a medic you need a week. As far advanced as their technology is, I bet that we have at most a week to use the loss of manpower. And the machines that they have built are difficult to overcome. I know that they have something called a train that they equipped with kunao and shuriken launchers. They are capable of launching 1,000 kunao at their opponents with a simple shot. It doesn't have the accuracy a ninja would have, but honestly, you would need a defense like Niji's rotation to protect yourself and others from that onslaught. And very few ninjas have such good defensive jutsus, Naruto pointed out. The others nodded. They knew that it was true. What do we do about the security of the princess? Haku asked. I think we should leave her in yours and Niji's care. You have your ice release, which gives you an immense advantage, and Niji can see any attacker from afar. Not to mention that he knows rotation in case they decide on a long-distance attack with kunao, like Naruto described. Guy pondered. Lee, Tenten and I are best suited to go against the ones using the armor, and I think Naruto could succeed getting close to Doto. He has the ability to get close to him if he can get a flying thunder god seal onto one of Doto's guards or a place where Doto will appear for sure. That would be a possibility, but contrary to my dad, I haven't mastered the ability to simply attach the seal onto a person just by physical contact yet. I need to place a seal tag somewhere or use one of my special kunao, Naruto admitted. It could still work, Tenten spoke up, you would only need to have a good enough distraction. For example, we could place a seal tag like that on one of our prisoners and let him be taken back. They wouldn't know to look out for it, instead they would interrogate the one we let escape. Doto will probably want to hear the report of the escapee in person, and then you could strike. That could work. And the ones we interrogated have no idea how Niji and I look like, as we kept them blindfolded. They wouldn't know that there was a possibility to be confronted with that jutsu. I'm the only one who knows it after all, and while I gained a reputation, it would be improbable that I was recognized during the fight on the iceberg by Nadare. He was after all busy with Guy, Naruto agreed. I think it is worth a try, Guy nodded. Over the next hour they worked out the details of the plan. Chapter 37, Battle Train. Doto wasn't a happy man, actually he was downright furious. Somebody had infiltrated his main base and not only destroyed his whole stock of chakra armor there, but they also had debilitated 70% of his security personnel. He didn't know who it was that had done it, but he would show them why it was a very bad idea to make him angry. Right now, he was discussing the next steps with Nadare. He needed Koyuki and the hexagonal crystal for his plans. Your job, Nadare, is taking out these Konoha pests. There is no doubt that they are behind the sabotage. I don't know how they got in here, but I want the holes in security closed. We're too close to our goal to fail now, Doto declared. Yes, Lord Doto. Do you have any particular plans how to deal with the Konoha ninjas? And do we know more about their identities? Nadare asked. I ordered the newest editions of the bingo books from all villages that we're in contact with. These came out just a week ago. Anybody of interest should be in there. I haven't looked through it yet. As you and your team encountered them, you should know most about them, Doto informed Nadare. I'll immediately go through the entries about them and brief my underlings. Some of their jutsus were also already shown to us and we'll use that to create strategies against them, Nadare assured him. Good. Inform me of the identities of those that you can identify, as I might encounter them in the future, Doto ordered and Nadare bowed, leaving to get to work. Nadare, as the only one to escape the fight with the Konoha team, had to go through the bingo book by himself, though he had some others assist by taking out the pages of each bingo book and sort them by village affiliation. Finally he had some confirmations. Alright, listen, he called out to the ninjas that were under his command at the base. I now know a few of the ninjas that were involved in the fight. It seems we are working against one genin team under Jonin Gai Mato and 2 higher-ranked ninjas. Gai is a taijutsu specialist and dangerous. His taijutsu style is the strong fist, which relies on speed and raw power. He's rumored to have been a rival to the Godame Hokage, Kakashi Hatake, in strength. Thankfully he's considered really stupid, but don't let your guard down when you encounter him. Gai is known to have mastered the Lotus and the 8 inner gates, so caution is needed. He's one of the fastest ninjas alive and you can be sure that he can outrun any of our fighters. We need to trap him somehow to take away his speed advantage. It might be a good idea to target the genins under his command to achieve that. Gai is an A-rank elite jonin. Next on the list is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, a specialist in Fuinjutsu and Ninjutsu. Recently promoted to Special Jonin, despite only being 13 years old. He's the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, who should be known to the older ninjas among us. The Yondaime Hokage's famous Flying Thunder God Jutsu was confirmed to have been used by his son in the invasion of Konoha. He's also confirmed as a Seal Master, which makes him even more dangerous. It might be possible that he has the Toad summoning contract, but thankfully in our climate he probably won't call upon a battle toad. Despite his youth, the boy is highly dangerous. According to the bingo book, Naruto has been involved in the fall of Gato in Wave Country and the defeat of a team of IWA ninjas. He's already been given a rank as a threat, mainly because of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Last on the identified list is Tenten Jako Nato, who's only got a mention in the book for having worked together with Naruto during the invasion of Konoha. She has essentially been the one to throw the kunaus used for the Flying Thunder God Jutsus to exactly the right places for Naruto to profit from it. I would rank her as a C-rank threat on her own, higher when working in a team with Naruto. No matter what, don't underestimate her. If she's that proficient with kunao, we can assume that she probably knows how to handle other weapons as well, and a sniper always bears the risk of having to deal with long-distance attacks via explosive tags. I can tell that one of the groups is a Hyuga, thanks to recognizing the Byakugan. That clan specializes in taijutsu by injecting chakra into the body with a simple tap of a finger, called the Gentle Fist. If the boy is any good, close combat with him is to absolutely avoid. Even if our armor gives us some protection, he could as well simply tap somebody's head and have the brain shut up, killing that person as efficiently as a kunai to the head would do. We don't know his name and potential, so don't take him lightly and simply assume he's Chunin level. That way we should be on the safe side. The next boy resembled Guy, so I would assume it is sure to say that he uses a similar taijutsu style, so careful engagement in battle is required, no matter if he's still a genin. As you know, taijutsu specialists are a weakness against our armor if they're fast and strong enough. I know that Kakashi Hatake knows about the models of the past, so he will have taken that into consideration when putting the team together. We have no information on the ice user, but he's certainly very capable of working with the landscape and he managed to capture his opponent. Among the group of 6, I would place the order of danger to Guy, then Naruto, then the ice user, the Hyuga, Tenten and the other boy. We need to plan properly to not fail against them again, because we can be sure that they'll try to attack again in the near future, profiting from taking out a large part of the security force of the base, Nadare pointed out. From the covered attack, we can be sure that there are 1 or 2 infiltration specialists in the group, but we can't really say which of them. It could be the ice user, Naruto, the Hyuga, or the girl. Taijutsu specialists normally don't really have the jutsus to pull infiltration off successfully. We need to be even more on our guard, as they already managed to get inside once. They can do it again. I want you to look out for anything out of the norm and I want you all to look for strange-looking kunais with seals wrapped around the handle. Also look for seals that you don't recognize. It's highly possible that they hid some of the flying thunder god seals in the fortress in preparation for an attack. Understood. The lower-ranked ninjas replied. The trip from the boat to the safe house was a risk, but they couldn't stay on the boat, as it was much too dangerous. They were easy targets there. The film crew was still going to accompany them on their journey, saying that this would be incredible material for the next Princess Gale movie. The ninjas had made sure to inform them that this was a highly dangerous mission now, but the director had assured them that they would be okay. Seemingly he thought that there was no better thing to happen than that a true princess being Princess Gale. And the quest to free her kingdom from her tyrannical uncle was even better than the original script for the movie. Talk about taking opportunities. Neji and Haku stayed close to Koyuki at all times while Naruto had a battalion of shadow clones scout ahead. It was good that Neji stayed close to Koyuki, as she had tried to escape twice so far already. She really didn't want to be in Snow Country. The group was getting closer to their destination. Then they heard a loud noise coming closer to their position. There's a large thing moving towards us at high speed. It's something mechanical and there are about 50 ninjas in there, Neji informed the group. The train, Koyuki breathed out fearfully. Ah, the armed machine that Naruto reported about, Guy realized. Team, you know your jobs. Haku, please be prepared to raise a thick wall of ice to protect us against attacks in high numbers. Neji, stick to Princess Koyuki. Naruto, take out as many of the weapon launchers as possible. Tenten, I want you to use the explosive tags with your kunai to help Naruto along. Lee, we will be taking out any opponents that leave the train and prevent that they can get close to our position, Guy quickly gave orders. Understood, was the common reply. Soon the train appeared. When Naruto saw how large it really was, he was just glad that they had talked Sandayu out of attacking Doto at the first opportunity they got. This thing was nothing a ragtag army could take on. Even 15 properly trained royal guards would be easy prey against this machine. You needed either a similar machine or ninjas with A-rank jutsus to make a dent into the metal. He watched how the train came to a stop. It had several wagons behind the part that pulled it, the engine, as had stood on the blueprints. Koyuki seemed to panic. Keep your head down. Running now is doomed to failure, Neji told her. Then a loud voice came from the train. It's been 10 years, Koyuki. Don't be shy, "Let's see your face," it said. "I knew it, that's Doto," Koyuki whimpered. "He doesn't have you yet," Haku stated. "And he won't get you. We will prevent that," Naruto added. "So, you think such a small group can take my snow ninjas on?" "Ridiculous," Doto commented, "we have the clear technological advantage. You're just an unyouthful tyrant that has no right to call himself the daimyo of this country. Murder of Princess Koyuki's father, the rightful daimyo, is no legal justification to take over a country. The people will always know that you're just a usurper," Guy declared while giving Tenten and Naruto hand signs behind his back. "We will see how long you can keep saying that. Annihilate that group." "They have no chance," Doto ordered. "Nadare, get me Koyuki alive." "Yes, sire," Nadare replied, and the man vanished from his position, while the walls of the wagons were lifted up and hundreds of Konoha launchers were revealed. The barrage of Konoha was in the hundreds within 2 seconds. Thankfully they had been prepared for something like this. "Ice release, ice wall," Haku said and slammed his hand onto the snow, raising a massive wall of ice in front of the group. "Wind release, great breakthrough," Naruto added and sent a high number of Konoha off course. The fire was continued though. Then Tenten shot back and hit the wagon with Konoha that had explosive tags hanging from them. Naruto had intentionally made them stronger than normal to have a chance to take out large targets. Tenten hit the 4 wagons in the middle perfectly and the tags blew them up, the shockwave also influencing the wagons in the back. Doto reacted by disconnecting them from the front part and having the engine pull the wagons in the front onwards on the track. Sadly, Tenten's explosive tags to the bridge didn't do too much damage, as the train managed to pull all but 1 wagon forward. Naruto shot into the air using his cloak and unleashed a tornado directly in front of the engine, which caused it to fall from the track. It cost a lot of chakras, as the engine was heavy, but he had more than enough chakra for this. Then he had to defend himself against a dragon made out of snow, which was controlled by Nadare. "Insect," Nadare insulted him, "I'll make you pay." "Snow release, snow prison." Around Naruto pillars of hardened snow appeared. He avoided each of them and cut 2 apart to avoid getting trapped in the middle. "Wind release, wind shuriken," Naruto countered and sent countless invisible shuriken at his opponent. "Snow release, snow uprising," Nadare called out, and a mass of snow shot upwards to intercept the shuriken. "Lightning release, hunting wolf," Naruto used another jutsu, one that his sensei had taught him. A wolf made of lightning shot from his hand towards Nadare. Nadare ran from the jutsu. Probably he realized that this jutsu was actually dangerous, as too much lightning fried any kind of machine, which his suit actually was. He barely got away and Naruto sent out 20 shadow clones to engage in taijutsu, knowing that ninjutsu was only indirectly useful. It had to have an effect on the environment or hit the few places on the body not covered by the suit to be really effective. That meant, his best bet was sneaking a flying thunder god seal onto Nadare to take him out. He also made a second group of 5 clones that used the Mirage Jutsu to sneak up to Doto to get him if possible. While Naruto was busy with Nadare, the rest of the group and the film crew, which was hidden higher up, using the chance to film the battle for their movie, were doing their best to protect Koyuki. She was not responsive and frightened by the attack. Even if currently, there were no Konoha flying towards her position. Then about 10 ninjas suddenly appeared from the snow, attacking their group. Nobody had noticed them sneaking up to them. Guy and Lee sprang into action, while Niji and Haku were ready to protect Koyuki from any that got past them. Tenten was locked in combat with a kunoichi that used a sword, countering her sword with one of her arsenal. Guy knocked 2 opponents out at once, knocking their heads together, while Lee's opponent had a painful meeting with a tree after a Konoha whirlwind kick to the head. Then Haku had ice shackles appear from the snow, surprising 3 of the group, slowing them down for a while. He immediately added more walls of ice around Koyuki to keep the thrown weapons from hitting her. Niji remembered what had been known about the suits and didn't bother aiming at the body of his opponents, which were protected. Instead he aimed at their faces. He was easily able to dodge their attacks, mainly snow and ice-based jutsus. Haku was much better at using those jutsus. There was a clear difference between a bloodline limit for the element and simple manipulation of something that was there. Two fell for not being careful enough. Two of the ones that Haku had caught got free, only to meet with Guy and Lee, who showed them that their taijutsu was far superior to anything the snow ninjas were capable of. And fighting on snow wasn't any disadvantage for them. Their team had trained to fight on any kind of surface, as Guy proclaimed that a good ninja had to be ready to fight at any time. One ninja unsealed a snowboard from his backpack and tried getting past the protectors with speed, but Niji was too aware of his surroundings with his Byakugan activated to fall for it. He got Koyuki out of the way and Haku then turned the snow into ice and had it throw the snowboarder into the air, where Tenten sent a barrage of Konoha, having a moment of breathing space in her fight with the swordswoman. Amur or not, it took that ninja out of the fight, as it hit the man with the power of 7 explosive tags that were attached to them. Even the armor couldn't take that kind of damage. Naruto's clones finally managed to land a solid hit on Nadare and one attached a seal tag with the Flying Thunder God formula on the man's back. The group of 5 had been more successful and had already placed tags onto the wagon in which Doto was in on 2 of the ninjas that stayed close to him. It never hurt to place more tags than necessary. Prepare flight mode, Doto ordered one of the ninjas around him and the man left to do whatever flight mode activation included. Thankfully nobody noticed him. It was clear that without the suits the snow ninjas were no real threat to the Konoha group. Only the annoying ability to cancel out any chakra-based attacks made it hard to deal with them. And thankfully, they had a team that could work around that issue. Now they only needed to protect the princess and keep her away from her bastard of an uncle. And then get her over her trauma to have a good daimyo in her for her country. But that could be dealt with later on. When Nadare prepared his next jutsu against Naruto, the original disappeared from his position and quickly dealt with the leader of the snow ninjas by cutting his throat with a kunai the split second after flashing to the seal on his back. The remaining snow ninjas seemed to be in shock, seeing their leader being defeated by a teenager. Guy and the others immediately took advantage of that and only 3 managed to escape using the body flicker. The others were either dead or unconscious. Doto's wagon then was turned into an airship and he looked down at the Konoha group and Koyuki. Suddenly a grappling hook shot out and took Koyuki, lifting her into the air. Before Niji and Haku could react to the maneuver. While you may have defeated my ninjas, I have the prize, Doto laughed, only for it turning into a frown when the rope holding the hook was cut by Naruto with a wind jutsu and he caught Koyuki in his arms, flying a little below the airship. Then he flashed away, only to reappear next to the rest of the Konoha group. I may have lost this round, but we now have more information. I will get that crystal and get the Kazuhana treasure, Doto mumbled while the airship rose and took the group away, back to the fortress. He needed a new plan. The Konoha group, the film team and Koyuki reached the safe house of the rebellion about an hour after the battle. Haku administered some medical treatment to those that needed it and Guy praised everybody for a youthful performance in protecting the princess. The film crew was very happy with the material that they had got during the battle and the director gushed how it would look fantastic in the movie. Well, tonight we will rest, but tomorrow we will launch an attack against the fortress when they don't expect it. We can't become too sure of ourselves. While we earned a deserved victory, the longer we wait, the more time Doto has to find an unyouthful way to counter us, Guy said. We will fight with the whole power of youth and free this country from its unyouthful leader, Lee shouted, pumping his fist into the air. You're right, Lee, that's the spirit I want to see. Guy shouted back. Guy-sensei, Lee replied moved. Lee, Guy exclaimed. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Both ran towards another with manly tears in their eyes, hugging, unleashing the sunset genjutsu of youth. Tenten and Niji were already used to the madness and had closed their eyes and held their hands over their ears to be spared. Naruto was quick on the uptake and copied their actions. The one to not react quickly enough was Koyuki, and thanks to treating her, Haku also got the full blast of the jutsu. Ga! Both Koyuki and Haku screamed. The scream of the princess made the guards outside of the room come inside running, only to be caught as well. It ended with 7 traumatized people, Lee and Guy, having bumps on their heads, complimentary of Tenten, who was reprimanding them of not unleashing that horrible genjutsu on innocent people, and Haku freezing their green jumpsuits in revenge. Wow, that must be a really devastating jutsu, the film director said. Can you repeat that for the camera so that we can use it as an attack against the main villain? No. Tenten, Haku and surprisingly Niji all shouted. I fear if you had that in the movie, you wouldn't be able to let children watch it, Naruto stated, which made the film director relent, but it bears potential of traumatizing the enemy with it. Even they don't deserve that, Naruto, Haku declared, not even Zabuza would have been that cruel. And for your information, Ibiki and Anko have asked to use it for their work, but it traumatized the victims too much to be useful in T&I. Too bad, Naruto relented. Lee and Guy pouted over the criticism for their showing of manly feelings. Doto was furious. His plan to snatch Koyuki had been thwarted, mostly thanks to that boy, Naruto, being able to fly somehow. There was no device that he used, no sign of something like the wings that some of the chakra armor had, so how did he manage that? He wore normal clothes as well, so they couldn't be the secret. He didn't like it at all that somebody could undo one of his major advantages, being able to take any fight to the air and keeping out of range of most jutsus. He also cursed that Nadare had been killed. Nadare had done well in his fight, and normally the boy would never have been able to kill him, if it wasn't for that cursed jutsu of the yellow flash. The Flying Thunder God jutsu enabled the one using it to appear in any place where he left a seal from one split second to the next, and the moment of surprise was too large for anybody to properly react. The yellow flash had been known as the fastest ninja alive, and now his son had proven to have mastered the jutsu as well. No wonder that IWA had put such a high bounty on his head. Even if, as far as he had found out, they didn't actively hunt the boy down. Many others had also placed the boy as an A-rank threat, just because of that one jutsu. And then there were the power of his other jutsus and his quick wit in battle. That boy wasn't special jonin for nothing with just 13 years of age. He needed to find a way to get one of their chakra-suppressing devices onto him, or he would pose a bigger problem than Guy, the one full jonin on the team. The question was, how to do it. He ordered all jonin of the Snow Village to be brought to him to discuss a plan to counter the abilities of the Konoha team, now that they knew more. Let's see if 6 Konoha ninjas could stand up against the full might of Snow Country's ninja force. You could defeat any opponent. You only needed to find the perfect opponent. This wasn't over by far, and if the Konoha group believed that, they would get a rude awakening. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.